everyone. This podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone's.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched See You Yesterday.
Yesterday!
Sebastian, this has to work.
We're too late. It's about controlling something we obviously have no control over.
My brother didn't deserve this. Just miss him, yo.
How many times have you jumped back, CJ? We're not superheroes.
Yeah, no, that's a different movie.
That is a different movie.
Yeah, it's a totally different movie.
So, okay.
Well, this is a Patreon-produced episode.
This is a Patreon-produced, you guys. We have a tier on our Patreon where, for a select amount of money, you can request us do a We Just Watched episode for anything you want.
Yeah.
Anything.
Anything.
It can be a new movie. It can be an old movie. As long as it's a movie we can get our hands on, obviously.
Right.
And I think right now it's just a movie, not a entire TV show. Like if we were to do like Briscoe County Jr. as a whole TV show, we couldn't do that.
No, that would be too much.
That would be too much. At this,
all 27 episodes of Briscoe County Jr. would be a lot.
That would be a living hell.
It would be a lot of episodes to try to cram into a simple, humble We Just Watched.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what this is. That's what this is. This is I believe John Carmack selected this one. I should have looked it up ahead of time, but I know his name.
We're flying by the seat of our pants right now.
Yeah. And so he requested See You Yesterday, which is on Netflix. We talked about it on a Hypecast, I believe, at some point.
We did recently. Yeah, it's a recent release.
Yes,
I think within the last couple of weeks.
Produced by Spike Lee. It's a sci-fi. If you have interest in it, it's on Netflix. So you can stop listening to this right now and go on the Netflix that you almost certainly have access to.
Right. The odds are in Netflix's favor on this one that you have a Netflix subscription or at least access to one.
Yeah. Okay. So, Tom, how'd you like this movie?
I thought it was bad.
Ooh. I didn't think it was terrible, but I think I know why you thought it was bad.
Yeah, there's some really good moments in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very clunky movie that is frequently at odds with itself in terms of its tone.
Yes, I think this is. I think the Rotten Tomatoes score of this is too high. It's very well liked.
It has like a 74 on Metacritic.
Right, and I think, and then I think there's a. I was going through Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it's that thing where the high is too high and the low is too low. Because the low is people like, this is SJW propaganda. It's like, all right,
fuck that.
Calm down.
Fuck off.
That's not what this is.
No.
This was a short.
It was a short, yeah. It was, and you can tell.
Yeah, as you texted to me, you can tell. And that's the biggest issue I had with this movie is that I liked a lot of it, but it did feel at times that they were stalling me. Like it was...
Right.
It was spinning its wheels a bit.
It doesn't make much. There's too much time in between travels, jumps to the past, and not enough explanation.
Yeah,
for why
actually, what? Yeah. What actually concerned me about that is that I could think of ways to kind of fill it in a little bit, a little bit. I mean, okay, they deal with time travel, which right away, if you're doing a time travel movie, you gotta really like. I love a good mind fuck. Even if at the end of the day, like a movie like Looper, where you're like, wait, that was dumb. But like while you're watching it, you're like, this is great. This is so smart. And then you finish the movie and you're like, wait a second. You tricked me. Yeah. I still enjoy Looper, but the time travel stuff is kind of silly.
Time travel's impossible.
Yeah, and it's always silly. So I didn't mind that. It really comes down to like, so what? Okay. What was your biggest problem with this movie?
I have two big problems.
Okay.
One is the tone.
Yeah, I know where you're at with that.
This movie is very much a kids movie. Like it has the plot line of a kids movie. Like it's in its simplicity and in its sort of.
I would argue.
Kind of. Well, let me finish my thought.
Okay, sorry.
In that it's a very simple story. It's focused on two kids, and it's about a very childlike wish that you have, where it's like, if only I could change this. Of things, it's really focused on stuff not being in control of things, which tends to be a theme in kids movies because kids don't have any control, they don't have any power, right. And it's all about her trying to travel back in time and save her brother. To me, it's sort of R-rated for no reason.
Well, I would say with the kids movie thing, I know what you mean, that it doesn't need to be that R-rated.
I was surprised when people started dropping the F-bomb. I was like, whoa, okay.
You're actually right in that regard, is that this could have been with the exact same plot.
Yeah.
Geared more towards younger audiences. Yeah. Because I will say, like, the look of it looked like a kids movie. Like the time travel, the mechanisms. That said, I would argue same with, say, Ghostbusters or any time travel, like Back to the Future, which of course is a big inspiration in this one. We should note there is a cameo in this movie.
There is a brutal cameo by Michael J. Fox. As the main girl's teacher, and he, like, bless his heart, he can barely stay together to perform a brief scene because his Parkinson's is so bad.
Yeah, I think I thought he did all right. Like
he did all right.
I know what you mean.
I felt it made me sad to watch him.
See, I've seen a lot of interviews with him recently and stuff, and I guess I know what you mean, but he's always been in pretty high spirits in interviews and stuff like that.
And obviously
I think he doesn't want you to be sad watching him. You know,
That's fair.
And so I
won't be sad then, Michael.
Yeah, I liked seeing him just because he doesn't get out much. And he was doing a Back to the, it's a time travel movie, and he says "Great Scott," which was a little fucking on the nose. But I was like delighted to see him in this, which is the thing. But this is the thing we said about this in Hypecast. You're right tonally, where it was like there's a lot of fun and games with the time travel, but it's a really dark fucking premise at the same time.
Right. And there's also I can't remember his name, the Puerto Rican kid that they have to use his motherboards.
Relief.
He is like a broadly comic character.
Yeah, he also doesn't matter that much because I think that was them stretching the plot a little bit.
Yeah, they needed to come up with a reason why they can't just jump back in time. And it's like, we need this guy to build these motherboards that he's perfected for the Science Expo, and that's the only thing that can hold the power of our time machines.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue. Like, tonally, I get what you're saying. It didn't bother me watching it, but there were multiple scenes where they're like, we have to fix this, and then they have to go get stuff, and then there's a montage of them fixing the thing. And there was two, and it was like, okay, I feel like you guys are just you don't have enough stuff to put in this. What they could have done, and I thought they were going to do it for a second, and it almost bothered me that they didn't do it, is the first time they go back in time, they go through a pattern of events, and they can clearly do it better.
Yes.
And they never try to do it better. And I thought we were about to get Run Lola Run. I thought we were about to get, okay, we need to get to here. And they could have written like a good reason why, like, okay, we can only start here and we only have to get here. And so I thought it was going to be them over and over again doing that same pattern of events.
Right, because they can only be back in time for like 10 minutes at a time.
And then I thought once they were like, okay, we're going to go back in time, and they were like, for the second day, and they're like, but we have to avoid ourselves. I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I made a note of that too.
It's going to keep being more and more of them.
Right, because they'll keep being more and more at the same time in the same area.
Yeah. And so
but they don't really do much with that.
Yeah, and I think because ultimately I don't think this movie was about that. I think that was the thing, is that there's they introduced the funness of time travel, but then it's not really about that, it's about grief. And so for that reason, like, I get why they didn't do that, but they kind of did need something. And because it did feel like they were spinning their wheels a bit. I liked when it did turn. I liked when they went the second time and he gets shot.
Right, her
and
friend
it was like,
gets killed instead.
And it was like, oh shit, I did not see that coming. That was not something I was thinking. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's between, like, which life are you going to give up?
Your brother or your friend. And the movie, obviously it's about, like, her older brother gets shot by the police. We don't see the shooting, which becomes important.
Yeah.
Because because the movie, it's sort of about grief. It's about obviously the injustice of these police shootings, and it's also about inevitability.
Yeah, I think the injustice stuff, they handled it in a way where it was like, it wasn't like the main part of it. It was kind of happening in the background. And what I liked about that is they were showing her like watching TV and there's all the protests happening, but to her it doesn't fucking matter. Like she's lost her brother. It's too late. All the protesting in the world, and that I thought was a big, that was a solid message to have in it. Yeah. Which is that, like, it's not that protesting is useless. It's just that, like, these are fucking people's lives. That's that's why there's protests. That's why people are upset.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where you could almost argue there's no reason for the brother to die that way, narratively, but I don't know. Not like from the cold-hearted narrative look at like what the movie appears to be, but that's not true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It adds a layer to it that's important.
Yes. And they sort of do. I thought they were going to do more of this. They either were going to do what you were talking about, where their problems are compounded because there's going to be so many pairs of them. Right. Because they keep coming back. It's going to be even harder to navigate because they only have 10 minutes and they have to be in this very specific part of New York. But then it makes sort of a butterfly effect twist where it's like, well, no matter what she does, something bad happens because that's what happens when you alter the past. It's like a sound of thunder.
And they make her character... Oh, sorry.
Well, I was finish that. Just to finish that thought. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Finish the thought.
They don't really super explore that. They don't explore either one, really. They do a little bit of both.
Yeah. They definitely... They make her character pretty impulsive right away.
Her character's an idiot.
Well, here's what I was thankful about with that.
And I'll clarify what I'm saying after you.
Oh no! I agree. The first time they go back in time, she immediately fucks with the timeline.
After telling her assistant, "Do not do anything because changing the past is terrible," she immediately starts fucking things up.
Yes, and she's supposed to be like her character's established. She's a
genius.
person.
Yeah, she's the one she invented time travel, and she's the one that warns us that you can't change anything.
Right, and I think what they needed to do, because I got it, because again, this is one of those things that it's Marty being called chicken. It's one of those things where it's like it's her weakness. It's supposed to be her weakness. That's the point. She can't grow as a character, but I think it was so unprovoked at first.
Yeah.
What I was glad, because I was really scared this was going to happen, is that she would be the reason her brother died. By they have her go back and start shit with somebody. That's not the reason. And so I was happy because for a second I was like, oh God, is it going to be her fault? Because she's not doing something. She's so impulsive in what she does that I didn't want that to be the reason, because that would have made me mad at her as a character.
And it's not really because
I also really liked her. I really liked her brother character. Like her
brother's great. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a few short scenes before he dies, and they bring him back, but I thought like, oh, that's it for him. And I was like, they really made me like him. I want him to come back. And then he comes back, and I was like, oh, I'm delighted.
And then he comes back, and then he ultimately, because we didn't, like I mentioned, we don't see the shooting.
Yeah.
So when we finally see the shooting, we see that it's her, CJ is her name, and Sebastian, her friend and assistant, come to where her brother and her brother's friend are when he gets killed, and they're trying to convince him to leave, and he won't, and the cops show up. And he sort of notices, like they do the Back to the Future thing where she's got the program, essentially, I don't know what you call it, from his funeral. And his picture is fading off of it because he's no longer dead, but Sebastian's dead. And like Sebastian's picture takes place on it. So like he makes the decision to stand up and pull his phone out so the police shoot him.
Right. He takes the bullet for this other person.
Which implies that it's because I think this movie has to deal with inevitability a little, or maybe not inevitability,
It does,
but like
I know what you're getting at. It implies that it was always this.
it was always going to be one of those two guys. It has to die.
Yeah,
like
and
the universe is owed one of their deaths for some reason.
Right. Yeah, that definitely felt like a theme in it. I like how they did, because the brother had to make a very big turn in that sequence. Because the alternate brother, figures out the time travel stuff and helps her go back in time the second time,
Yes.
or the third or fourth or whatever. I think it's the third time. And he's sort of like, hey, if you can save my life, please do it. But if not, fucking take care of yourself. And so like they do enough to establish his character that then when they go back and they show him the
dog tags.
Yeah, the dog tags
and
and
the
the
photo.
pamphlet. He doesn't believe it right away, but he sees it's fading. And like they make him like, I've been feeling weird all day. And
Yeah.
they give him enough that I was like, okay, in this short span of time, he does kind of think like, all right, I think I know what's going on. Like,
Right, yeah, he sees his picture fade and Sebastian's picture
yeah,
take his
and I
place.
think he knows that she's been fucking with time travel. Like, she knows that that's her project, and like it's a lot to lay on a person, so they do a good
Yeah.
job at him
yeah.
sort
Lot to
of
lay
like
on this man.
Yeah, they do a good job at having him being like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
To like, I know what's going on, and now I'm going to do this thing. And it plays into him being just a really good guy,
Yeah.
and him wanting things for her and not feeling like he's as worth it, I guess, which is sad, you
Yeah.
know? But it's,
He's jumping on a grenade.
yeah, exactly. So that stuff worked for me. I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about, because tonally this is,
The movie's all over the place. I don't know
It's
if
asking-
we're conveying it well, but in terms of its tone, it's very...
like you probably see in the trailers, like the graphics of the time machine, the way that, like, again, all time machine stuff is silly,
Yeah.
but this is kind of in the simplicity of like a Spy Kids movie. Like it's like a
yeah, they're
kids
running around
movie.
with backpacks that
Right,
let
which,
them travel
again-
through time.
Yeah, which Ghostbusters. But I guess what I'm trying to get with is like the specific aesthetic of them is like it's all kind of smooth metal. It's all like when they like look at their little wrist things, it's all like the kind of graphics in a computer that don't look like it would actually be a computer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's very Agent Cody Banks, very Spy Kids.
Yeah. They put on the special goggles and see it in augmented reality, and it's like they could have grittied it up a little bit. Like Ghostbusters are also wearing backpacks, but the proton packs look like trash.
And also, Ghostbusters is a broad comedy.
Yes,
It's it's not dealing with a serious societal issue.
You're right. And so like that's you get some like whiplash with that, where you're just
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure tonally how you want me to feel about this. You just gave me Michael J. Fox. You just did a Back to the Future reference.
Yeah, it was like I said, it's when they have their scene, the first scene where they try to go back in time, it doesn't work, and it's it's cutesy. It's like and then we have the scene with them in class, and it's kind of cutesy, and then
Right.
they go to the convenience store, and this guy shows up. And immediately they start like, he's like, oh yeah, you're just mad because I fucked you and left. I was like, what? And then she starts cussing at him and slapping
Right.
him. I'm like, what the fuck is this movie? It was very jarring because the movie looks and feels
Right.
like a completely different kind of movie depending on what scene you're watching.
Yeah, they definitely
and
need
it
to nail
definitely
down the
introduces
tone.
itself as being like a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
Like a movie about a very real issue that's dressed up in sci-fi, and it could be helpful for kids and families to watch, or a message that would resonate with pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
And then it takes this abrupt turn when they go to the convenience store.
Well, yeah, and again, it in the way it applies to time travel too is that it was that question of like, is this supposed to be a fun time travel movie or is it not? Because I wasn't sure. Because like we're talking about, we're disappointed that they didn't play games with the time travel concept.
I'm not necessarily disappointed. It's just that they introduced that element. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and then they don't go
Right.
anywhere with it. And then they introduce the other, like the butterfly effect element. I'm like, oh, that is also interesting, but that's
Right.
really as far as they go.
Yeah, but they're very fun elements. They're elements that you want to see them keep going with them.
Yeah.
And again, the movie isn't really about that because it's about the relationship with her and her brother and stuff like that. It's just more that, it's like, is this a more kid-oriented time travel movie, or is this going to be a more adult movie dealing with grief? it can be more than one thing, but I think they never got that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it looked. I still think aesthetically I think it looked good. I liked the time travel effects of like the smoke of them coming back.
Yeah.
And coming back in. That was good. I liked, again, those like little playful things. There's the guy sleeping in the alleyway, which reminded me of Back to the Future.
Yep, for sure.
Where again they knew time travel was fun.
Mm-hmm.
They were just using it for a very serious thing, and I think maybe the idea was just like, we're taking a really fun sci-fi thing and then we're going to make it dark, and it's going to kind of take a turn.
Yeah. And then it ends in a very strange place.
Yes, because it ends in a way that you think you've got it, which is that the brother sacrifices himself.
And then it cuts back to him moments after she jumps back in time and he disappears. And it's very emotional. Yeah,
and I thought like, oh, are they going to end it right there? Like right there and then.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't.
Nope. They imply that she is going to forever travel back in time and try to save her brother, which is a real...
It's darker. It's a scary
super
ending.
dark, and I'm not sure what they're trying to say. Are they saying she's never going to get over it? Are they saying this is an inescapable part of being a black person in America?
But, well, if that's what they're saying, then I do like the message, which is don't stop fighting.
That's true. That's true.
Which is that... And that was one impression, because that's the thing is, and that's why that's why I am probably very wrong when I said that the police element of it doesn't need to be in there.
From a cold narrative standpoint, yeah, but like that is the reason this movie was made.
Yeah, from the message of the movie, it's not just about death. It's about injustice. It's about racial injustice, and the need to. Yeah, it's that battle between doing something about it and sitting there.
Right, because
it's just using time travel is
you're right. It's like as a message about grief, it's not good, but as a message about like she's like, well, no, fuck this. I'm not just going to accept that either my friend or my brother has to die. No, neither one of them has to die.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's pretty.
That
cool.
makes more sense. Yeah, I like that. I like the ending better now that we've talked about it.
Yeah. Now we've talked it out because I do think this is one of those movies that I think one of the biggest. It's not. I'm not going to blame the audience, us, for it, but I think we went into this movie expecting something and not getting that thing. And I think a lot of people who watched it, because of the way the movie was advertised and the way the movie tonally presents itself, where you kind of think you're getting something and you're not quite getting that. But ultimately, I do like the message of it and the thought behind it. It's more just, and again, everybody does great in it.
Yes,
and I do
the
think
performances are all real good.
Yeah, and whoever directed this, I don't know their name, did a good job.
I think he's a first-time director.
Oh, okay.
I think
he used a Spike Lee shot there when I think after she comes back, it was from Inside Man, the shot where it's like they're walking but they're not, where they're just sort of moving.
Yeah, he does that in
Spike Lee loves
Black Klansman too.
Yeah. And it's a very interesting shot. I think I like that style shot. It reminds me of the Darren Aronofsky body cam. I forget what that fucking camera's called.
The body harness.
Yeah.
When you're and it's you're just wearing a harness and the camera's pointed at your face.
Yeah, and the camera is moving with your body.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, that shit's great. It's very similar to that, but they do like he's used it. At least Spike Lee has used it to. Portray different, like wildly different emotions, but it works for any of them, which is almost like it's a sense of purpose. It's like they're just
you're being
moving.
pulled. Yeah, you're being pulled towards something because you have to go there. Yeah, and that works in this situation because it's like the determination of moving on to the next, solving this time travel thing so you can save your brother. I just.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was a very clunky movie.
That's really it kind of comes down to like the piece by piece execution where it was like like I said, there's 2 montages of them building shit where
Yes.
it's like, you should have figured this out. Like the message is good, the premise is good. Like I understood why it needed to exist as a movie, and I think they just needed to. I don't know, they tried. They added characters and stuff that were, like, it felt like, it felt like everything that stretched it felt like it was an obstacle of the plot, as opposed to all fitting together.
Yeah, it seemed like the movie goes on a few tangents. It feels like when
because
they have
ultimately it just needs the 3 characters.
Yes.
And it's just her trying to make that decision and then deciding, no, I don't have to make this decision.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. Although I do like Sebastian's grandparents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were great.
She comes down and yells at him to clean up the garage.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
Yeah. There's a lot of good supporting characters and stuff. It's that thing of like we said at the top of this, the reason it was a short makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it is a very kind of, the message is, I don't want to say simple, but it's straightforward.
Yeah, it's a very straightforward thing. Yeah.
And I wonder if the reason we were trying to work out the message was because it was a whole movie now and they added more elements in.
Right, it was sort of difficult it's still the same message. It was just there was more to parse through, so it was like, okay, does this mean anything? Or it's I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think they could have. I'm trying to think of what. Like, I do think kind of the fun and games of time travel would have worked in this if they did the right way. This is one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to pretend like I can fix this movie or know better, but it's just like I know where this talent, like these people could have kind of applied themselves to make
it
this
seems
work
like it,
better.
The better way to have it be to have the conflict of rather than having them to do things to get the time machines to work, it should have been them back in time trying to figure,
Yeah, that's where the conflict shouldn't have been.
Of them trying, it should have been trying to make the time machines work. It's like, well, they already work. Let's you have 10 minutes to try to figure out how to stop her brother's death. So it's like you can do a lot with that,
right? And I do think, because if you're making a time travel movie, no matter what you're using, what message you're using to convey through that premise, you should use that premise the way we've, as kind of a society, as audiences, enjoy that premise, which is, okay, now you're back in time, now what? Instead of trying to make the time machine work. It's what do we do with that element? Not let's work to achieve that element. It's like,
right, yeah. Because you could still have the hero's low point at the end of the second act where Sebastian dies.
Yeah, you could still have them come back to the future.
Oh yeah, they would just go Back to the Future.
I loved the title. See You Yesterday is a very Back to the Future fucking title,
and it's what her brother says to her.
Yeah, See You Yesterday
when he helps her go back in time, and then he disappears after it. And it's very sad. It's one of the best moments of the movie.
Yeah.
It just there's things about it that are just like we see her reading A Brief History of Time 3 different times in the movie.
I missed that. That's funny.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. It's just it was just clunky.
It's a bit clunky.
It's a bit clunky.
There's like some problems here and there narratively. It's.
I mean, it's super ambitious. It's original. It's original as shit.
Yeah, that definitely has it going for it. I'm now thinking of it in terms of, because I watched this movie, I didn't regret it. I wasn't mad at the movie while I was watching it, and I finished it, and I was like, oh, that was cool. And then the more we talk about it, the more I like it to an extent. But I can't deny the fact that, like, thinking of this in terms of general audiences and how to reach people, and like, I don't think this movie's that popular. I haven't heard anybody talk about it really.
No.
So it does feel like a movie it's like kind of a frustrating movie where it's like, I really like what you're doing. Like you're saying this is a message that should get to more people, myself included. Like, it's just, the actual execution of the story of the movie, I feel like they needed to work on it a little bit.
Yeah, this feels like a first draft or an early draft.
Yeah. And I feel like we've had a few on this that's like that.
Oh yeah, it's a common problem.
Yeah, which is weird.
We've said that exact phrase on this show many times.
Yeah, it's a weird problem for movies to have.
Yeah,
because you think they'd be, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go back on. Now that we've been talking about it and I've been thinking about it more, I retract my statement that this movie is bad.
But okay, but that's the thing is that. All right.
I don't think it's bad. I just think it's not. It's
not that
it's clunky.
Yeah, it's more to me that it's not that it isn't bad, but like if most people aren't going to sit for an hour and talk about the movie afterwards, and so if you're trying to reach a wide audience with this message, people like myself who does not have this experience in my life, who is a white guy who's never had to deal with cops in this way, like then you do need to make it you need to make the message clear enough that when you finish watching it, you don't have to talk about it for an hour to figure out like, oh shit, that's really good, I like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
That's
I don't know. It's not that the message isn't clear. It's that the movie is unnecessarily tangential around it.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that, yeah, you're right. The message. It's not that the message isn't clear. It's just it's easy for someone to watch this movie and kind of get bored with it and miss the message, I think.
Right, because a lot of the movie, the biggest problem is that they decide to have the conflict be, they've got to get the time machines to work. Right,
and it kind of loses you there.
It does, because you sort of lose. You kind of lose her motivation a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because it's not like the thing is we need to be back in time and stop him from getting killed. So if you had spent that time, that part of the story, just going back in time over and over again, trying things that keep failing, and her frustration and grief just grows, and she becomes more and more determined to do it. Like you have the same kind of conflict, but you don't lose the motivation of the character, and it makes things even more dire. And then of course the rug gets pulled out from under her when Sebastian gets killed,
right?
Because she's so focused on stopping this thing that just like things get out of control, and she goes like it happens. I mean, we get that from her character because she's so determined to stop this that she puts herself in danger by going into the convenience store to tell the clerk, these guys that are in the store right now are going to rob you.
Right.
And that ends up how Sebastian ends up getting killed.
Right. Yeah.
But we haven't quite done the energy is spent in a strange direction.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. So I would say the biggest.
I think that's the biggest problem with the movie. Biggest flaw
is kind of that beginning low point. That area, kind of like the second. It's kind of like the second act is. They know their first act, they know their third. Again, it feels like a short film that has been stretched, and they just have this trouble in the middle. It's frustrating because I think they could have filled that time.
Yeah, we never really need to see any other characters, like you said, besides these three.
Yeah, but if we did, we can do stuff with those characters, and or I don't like. Again, I could see like them interacting with those characters after going back in time, and there's just a lot of fun with.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah, you could do some stuff with that. Yeah,
where true. It's like, I just saw you in there. Where are you doing here?
It just like feels weird to bring in that third classmate because he built this fantastic motherboard. It's just that whole bit is strange.
That character didn't feel like he went anywhere.
No,
he
felt like he was in a different movie.
Yeah, and then she doesn't really. She has that thing. She's like, "I'll go on a date with you if you do this," but then that doesn't really pay off.
No,
I did appreciate that they weren't trying to inject romance.
No,
especially between the two friends. Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like a lesser movie would have felt compelled to do that. but this knew it didn't need that. But yeah, that third character, he's in it briefly, and then they're like, "You need to go," and then he goes, and it's like, "All right, see you later."
Yeah.
See you
Get
later,
the hell
guy
out of
who
this
had
movie.
no consequence. And it also added this weird element of like, how many of these kids are geniuses? Like he
They're
seemed
like
to
in a
have his
school
own.
of geniuses. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I didn't. Yeah, just the two main kids would have been fine. I like that I like that they're doing like their own electronics store and stuff. I like that spunky kid attitude like that. Like I could have used a Rube Goldberg machine at some point.
Like the thing that opens the gate in the Goonies.
Yeah. Like, but they gave us that flavor.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't quite about that. It's a fascinating movie. Like, I think I have to recommend it to people for that reason.
Yeah, I think so. So. It's be, like I said, be prepared for some uneven moments.
Yeah, but there's also, it feels like a movie that maybe there's elements to it that I'm missing, that someone else might pick up on.
Yeah, and the emotional
maybe not, I don't know.
moments. Yeah, the emotional moments in the movie are very good.
Yeah, and these are a lot of actors that I don't recognize that I would like to see in things.
The two leads were in the original short.
Oh, okay, yeah. They were very
CJ
good.
and Sebastian. Yeah, they're good.
And again, that brother is really good. I really liked him.
The brother was great, man.
Yeah.
I think he's on a show. I can't remember what show he's
Really?
on. Yeah, I looked him up because I was like, this guy's really fucking good.
Yeah, he was really good. A lot of good talent in this. Again, I'd love to see the director do more. I can understand why this got like kind of lukewarm response. Why I'd love to read some of the like really positive critic reviews of why people loved it. Because it just, to me, it felt like narratively as a movie, it felt uneven in a lot of places.
Yeah.
But the premise, the message, the characters, the emotions in it were great.
Yeah, the high points of this movie are very good indeed.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth watching.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say about this.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to say. This is going to be kind of a shorter one, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be about 40 minutes.
Because we pretty much agree.
Yeah, there wasn't much. I mean, you definitely, like, I came out of this. I mean, I'm glad. I think because I just watched this movie, like, right before we started recording. So I was still very much processing it. And coming out of it in that sense before we started recording, in my head, I was just like, oh, yeah, I like that. And that was it. Because I hadn't had time to process it. But I do remember, like, watching it, thinking, like, oh, that's kind of weird. Oh, that's totally off. And being like, oh, there's multiple montages.
Yeah, noticing that brief history of time book. I was like, all right, movie, calm down.
But I wasn't like angry at the movie in any point. I wasn't like, oh, fuck this movie.
No, the only moment for me that I was like, what is the moment where she's like really emphasizes to Sebastian that they can't do anything to change the past, and the first thing she does is fucking fuck with that guy that yelled at her in the 7-Eleven the previous day. I'm like, what are you doing? You just told us not to do this.
And then she does it twice.
It's the first thing she does. Yeah, and then gets him hit by a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And doesn't seem to understand why Sebastian's upset about it.
Yeah.
He's like, we can't do this again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
weird.
just, yeah, I mean, that's a thing that happens in a lot of movies where a character does something, you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I will say it was weird for this character. It felt tonally off for her. Because, like, Marty McFly, he's not a scientist. He's a
goofball. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah. She seemed a lot more, I think they could have, that could have used word, because I like the idea that she has, like, an Achilles heel, emotional Achilles heel. Where like she's can be like prodded at to do, but like they were basically kind of establishing that the stakes by doing that. It's just like this guy gets his arm, he gets hit by a car. If you fuck with time, like, but yeah, it was a very goofy thing to do.
Yeah, I feel like there could have been a better
Yeah.
Like, he could have just seen her, like, because what happens in the original Day is that he's like talking shit to her in the convenience store. She starts slapping him out of the street, and then her brother shows up and gets the guy to fuck right off.
Yeah.
So they could have had him that asshole could have just seen her and Sebastian, future her and Sebastian, and been like, hey, we're going and chase after her, for just revenge of what happened in that previous scene, and then he gets hit by the car.
Yeah.
So like, the lesson would still be the same. Like, okay, we got to be careful that people don't even see us.
Yeah. And they do the thing
it just
where
seemed weird to have her be like, her tell us that we can't change the past, and then immediately change the past.
Yeah. I love that you can't see your past self rule, because that's one of those things that every time travel movie establishes. I've never seen one explain it.
I think it's just so much of a mind fuck, and what happens, and that's how Sebastian gets killed. Is past Sebastian sees her, and is like, "Hey, you jumped without me," and then walked into the
I'm saying that, like, if I was building a time machine, and then me walked in and said, "Hey, on this day, you have to do this thing, or this person will die," I'd say, "Okay."
Yeah,
like, I think got it. Got it. I will write that down. Goodbye. Let me know how it goes.
Right. It's Marty giving Doc Brown the note that he's going to get shot to death by Libyan terrorists.
Right. Although that said, if I did that, then it would prevent me from going back in time to tell myself, and the universe would explode.
Correct. I think that's the problem. Like,
unless you have multiple timelines.
Right. It's just if you run into yourself in the past, it's going to change your past, so you might never come back in time.
Right.
It's just time travel's hard. it's
a lot
impossible.
of work.
Yeah,
that's why you got to send like Captain America.
That's right.
Yeah, just hang out, grow old, and just not do anything about anything.
Be secret husband.
I've seen so many memes of him, like the wife, like, "Oh my God, Kennedy was assassinated today," and him just like, "Oh yeah," like.
Well, he can't
just
do
has to ask surprise.
It'll change the future.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't beat. Maybe if he saves Kennedy, they don't beat Thanos.
That's true.
Yeah, would you think about that?
I get it, and that's the point of this movie.
That's the point of this movie, kind of. Yeah.
I like them doing like the going back a day, because again, going back a day, I would be like, yeah, I'm going to change fucking everything. I don't give a fuck.
Right. There's not that much room for consequence there, outside of the immediate consequence that we see in the film, where people get injured. It would be amazing
if you go back a day and you like change something, you go back and they're like, Hitler's in charge now. It's like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, it turns out he was a vampire the whole time. He was just in hiding.
Yeah. You threw that slushy at the guy, and now Hitler's in charge.
Yeah, now we got a Hitler.
Yeah, that's how you get Hitler.
A sound of thunder indeed. I think that's a sode.
Yeah, that's a sode. Hey guys, this was from our Patreon, as we described at the beginning. So if you're interested in such things, such as subscribing to our Patreon, you go to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's what you do to do that.
And you can check out our exclusive podcasts, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder's Maniac, and there's also a tier if you want to kick us a few bucks to get your own We Just Watched episode.
Yeah. Let us know.
Like this one here.
Yeah.
I think
so.
That's
it. Special thanks to John for funding this, and I'm glad I saw this movie. So thanks for making us see this movie, John.
Yeah. It was on. Obviously we covered it on Hypecast. It was on our radar, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to get along. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know how it is. It's
I've had movies on my watch list for like 2 years.
Yeah, it's much easier to watch a movie where it's like, this is your job now.
Right. And it's all right. Am I going to watch this new movie, or am I going to watch Congo again?
Exactly. Exactly. I think you were describing that you watched Blown Away recently, right, Tom?
I did.
I started that. I just started that.
Yeah, watch Blown Away. It's great.
Yeah, I was gonna go to bed to it, and then I was too pumped by it, and so I was like, I have to shut this off and come back to it when I'm ready.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones explodes out of prison. Everybody see Blown Away.
He sure does.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Watch See You Yesterday, and then watch Blown Away.
Yeah. Back to back.